Alright, Section 1, Preliminary Data. Scope of the handbook, drive of the critical criteria for the necessary for the proper select for the electrical power source of the distribution system to cover the preliminary load estimating factor of the electrical power source for the distribution system. 1-2, Cancellation. Handbook contains the supersede of the DM 4.1 Electrical Engineering Preliminary Design Consideration of the December 1979 change of the data of the March 1st, 1983. Load data before specific electrical power source for the distribution system of the committee to the list preliminary load data must be complied with expected electrical power demand with the intermediate substations over the main electrical power supply shall be calculated from the connecting load laid out with applying the appropriate factor to determine the factor of the load with analysis combining load progressively. The combining of loads at the start of the end of the smallest feeder of the work back of the electrical power of the source because all the loads must be on a common kilowatt or kilovolt amperes basis. It is necessary to convert the motor hours power rating for the input kilowatt of the kilovolt amperes before combining them with the other loads and already expressed. Within those terms, preliminary electrical power load estimates can be made with using an approximate value of the 1 kilovolt ampere of input per horsepower at full load. Preliminary estimates for the lighting loads may be made assuming the watts at feet squared, meters squared over the building area. Loading analysis. Determine the appropriate load estimating factor use the table, the factor, the dismay of the guide, and analyze the characteristics of each of the load. Consider the items that must be system environmental consideration, weather, geographical location, working hours, as is the situation dictates. Note that the load densities of work time for the feet. Load densities, watt times feet squared times meter squared are used on preliminary estimates for the demand. Load factors will be used for the final design. 1.5 Terminology. 5 terms are essentially the analysis of the load characteristic, demand factor, convention factor, diversity factor of the maximum demand. These terms are defined in paragraph 151 through 154. 151 the demand factor. The demand factor is the ratio of the maximum demand of the system total connected load of the system. The demand factor equals the maximum demand load over the total load connected. 152 Coincidence. In fact, the coincident factor is the ratio of the maximum demand of the system part of the under consideration to the sum of the individual maximum demand of the subdivision. The equation for the coincident factor is equal to the maximum system demand over the sum of the individual maximum demands. The diversity factor is reciprocal over the coincident factor over the diversity of the sum of the individual maximum demands over the maximum system demands. Load factor for the ratio average load over the designated period of the time, usually 1 year of the maximum load occurring in the period of the load factor is equal to the average load of the maximum load, and the maximum demand is either the integrated demand, but they specify the interval with the 5 minutes, 15 minutes, for 30 minutes, or other appropriate time interval rather than instantaneous peak or demand. Alright, Section 2, Estimation of Loads. Well, we'll keep reading since this is only 2-minute tape. 2.1 Preparation of load data. Load data is generally computed within the step of the individual loads, area load, the activity loads, the particular design problem may be limited with the step A, with the step A and B, or the main come with the steps A and B and C with the section outline with each for the step of the A separate dependent only with the previous step with the data with the paragraph 2.2 with the 2.4.4 describe the 3 loads. Individual loads are those for the income mixture with the supplying with the utilization voltage for the premises of the general release load will compromise with a single structure with a large structure that can contain more than one function. For example, the aircraft operation, aircraft fire and rescue station photographic buildings under this condition factor they haven't been developed and keyed with the Navy category code. For refer to table 1 would be within the factors listed in the Navy, the category code 141 through 40, 141 through 20, 141 60 respectively would be combined with to obtain the total load. Lightning. Eliminate lighting loads divided by the factor area with a significant component of the function. For example, the office, the store, the mechanical corridor to determine the average lighting level of the type of the lighting source for such area with the consider the requirements for the supplementary lighting. For example, flood lighting, security lighting, and special task lighting. Preliminary loading of the system may be based on the following load allowances: 1 watt foot squared for each 6 to 8 cubic FC foot candles of incident incandescent illumination. 1 watt foot squared for 15 to 20 foot candles of the fluorescent illumination. 1 watt foot squared for each 12 to 8 foot candles of the mercury vapor illumination. 1 watt foot squared for 26 to 36 foot candles of metal halide illumination, and 1 watt foot squared for 33 to 54 foot candles of high pressure sodium illumination. 2.2.1 Small appliance load. Small appliance load should be included with the serve of the general purpose receptacles general to divide the areas function with the estimating lighting loads with the serve of the estimating small appliance load. The termination load requires not only the knowledge of the function of the area, but to the extent of the occupants of small appliances. For example, the office area demand with an average of 1 watt foot squared. And then goes into descriptions of your the factor of the individual facility, the navigatory categories, and the demand factor, load factor, the Navy code, and description. And then we'll continue on and. All right, but could vary with a low with a half of the watt foot squared, two with the high with a 1.5 watt foot squared. May have specific tasks perform a minimum of the 10th of a watt for the auditorium for the maximum of the 2.5 watt for the machine shop of the hospital. Although the upper door limits for the occupy occur very rarely. Mechanical space of the building, storage area with a similar space with which outlets provide with the infrequently if you've negated with the computing load except for the special cases. 2212 electrical power loads. Electrical power loads should include with all loads other than lighting loads with those served over the general purpose of receptacles compromise the environmental system and electrical power requirements for the facility occupancy equipment electrical power requirements. 2213 system loss. The system loss probably 6% based on the calculated maximum demand should be added to the building load. Demanding of load factor. The demand and load factor for the specific facility will vary with the division of the load of the hours of the use. Refer to table 3 and 2 and 3 with the value that can be applied with the determined demand of the load factor. The table 4 include with this guide with A with the illustration of the method of determining the load where calculated with a particular type of the building, such as academic, general, instruction building, and the code 171 type of the value given the empirical will vary from the activity of the activity may vary with the one facility to another within any of the activity. Annual hours of the demand must be determined for each of these in accordance with the method operation character of the installation, demand factor, load factors, individual facility, Navy category code, given in Table 1 based on the survey of existing with the Navy facilities past with experience. Some such factors must be for the quick estimating purpose for the check for the more precise calculation of particular referred to Table 4. 2221, given the guidelines, demand factor, the guidelines for selection of the demand factors referred to Table 5, guides for load factor, the guide for the selection of load factor to indicate the need for the special consideration for the Table 6. Factors in the middle of the range of the average of the peacetime or the establishment should be done left with the guidelines of the Table 6 and indicate otherwise. Load growth. Determine the requirements for the load growth they anticipated due to the life expectancy with particular attention for the possibility of adding heavy load for the form of the air conditioning, electrical heating, and electrical data processing, electrical communication equipment. Before determining the size of the server, the method of the distribution to the facility, and the economic analysis should be made to determine the most of the feasibility for the server. The future load of the analysis should include the effect of the existing installation, future loads of requiring reinforcing rehabilitation of the server system. Alright, Table 2 shows the demand factor specific to load note 1, type 1's motors, estimated range of the demand factor, quick estimating demand factor, and motors, demand factor allowance. Table 3, annual hours of demanding a specific load, type loaders, motors, 1 shift to operation, 2 shift operation, 3 shift operation, quick estimating hours. Uses, Table 4 with the general motors, miscellaneous fractional small appliances, lighting, air conditioning, total watts and square foot, demand factor, load factor, annual uses, megawatt, annual operation, 1 shift to uses, maximum demand load, line 2 and 3. Load demand factor for the connected load, 1 square foot, load demand load factor formulas calculated with a 100,000 square foot or 10,000 square meter of the building of the Table 2 and 3 with the tab U with the line 3 and 5 with the respective load growth is indicated with the connected load with the maximum demand load indicated to the allowance of the system loss for the illustration for the coincident factor occurring with the individual demand loads are added with the conservative to be 1.00 and has not been shown. Section Table 5 guides for the selection of the demand factor selected for the factor for the upper half of the range for the consideration described below, selection factor for the lower half of the range considered for the description below. Your general guidelines, the operational training facility, the maintenance and production facility, the research development, testing facility, supply facility, the hospital, medical facilities, administration facility, housing, communicating facilities, utilities, and ground improvements. Table 6 shows that the guiding the selection of the load factors show the selecting factor for the upper half of the range consideration described below, select factor for the lower half of the range consideration with the described below with the general guidelines, the operational training guidelines, maintenance for the production facility, the research development, testing facility, supply facility, the hospital, medical facilities, administrative facilities, housing, communication, housing, community facilities, utilities, and ground improvements. 224 emergency load. The determination of emergency electrical power with the requirements of the base for the 3 types of load with the preferred of the section for 3 with the type of the load with the include with the each for the category minimum essential load, emergency load with the virtual vital operation uninterruptible non-break load with the 3 categories of emergency electrical power requirements have then with the certain determine the local emergency facility as required where load for the group of the essential emergency facilities what load with the satisfied reliability of the general system before aforementioned determination of the safety of the reliability economy of the order. Area loads consist of the group of the individual facility loads of the subdivision electrical distribution system determine the area supply with the next largest subdivision overall distribution system. The main load of the area being made to know the size of the type of the sizing of the distribution wire switching and any of the large insulation will be required for the design substation servicing the area. Table 7 to give an example of how the coincident peak demand is calculated. General load with the general load with the roadway lighting, area lighting, obstruction lighting, and other loads not included with the individual facility. Coincident facts determine the maximum expected demands taken into consideration. Weather load of the area peak of it's the same. The different type the times relationship 23221. Our relationship figure 1 indicates the relationship between the load factor of the individual facility load with the coincident with the peak demand with the peak demand with the group of the relationship with the developed with the server load with the selected with the Navy shore for the activities by the application for the factors developed. To warmer loads published by the Institute of Electrical Engineers. The collateral reading of the subject of the Institute of Electronic Engineers in technical paper 45-116. Coincident factor relationship with electrical surface load with the characteristic table 8 figure 1 tabular form of the value shown in the nearest hole of the dollar except the load factors. 2322 selection area of the relatively insignificant residential type load with load curve indicate the most of electrical power consumed by the area used during the 40 normal working hours over the week, with the coincident factor of the higher end of the range. Electrical power consumption in general areas with larger elements or a large amount of the electrical power consumed with the outside of the usual 40 hours of working week, having the coincident factor of the lower end of the range. Example, the hospitals areas are operated with the 2 or more shifts. The large barracks type activities upper limit of the range for more than 40 hour per week, with the lower limit of the 60 hour per week operation. Table 7 for the method of calculation coincident peak demand parents has been referred to the note for the Milhdbk for the description of total connected load. Demand factor for the maximum demand of the load factor the coincident factor for the coincident peak peak. And then show for the code in their description and show the shows a coincident factor and percentage over the load factor percentage. Theoretical relations between the load factor coincident factor U.S. Navy stores. Establishment. Table 8 relationship between the load factor for the coincident factor the load factor for the coincident factor load the hour per week, load factor for the coincident factor loads hour per week, coincident load factor for the loads hour per week 40 to 60, load factor for the coincident factor load hours for a week, and then it goes up to 100. Alright, influencing factor for the number of individual load for the group of their load factor for the influence of the individual load coincident factor for the coincident factor for the table 8 with apply with the group with the 100 more individual load with the coincident factor that can also be with the group of the view with the 30 to 50 individual loads and the load factor of the 3/10 for the or greater for the area with the few individual loads. Mathematical relationship with the Institute of Electrical Engineer and Electronics technical paper 45-116 that provided the basis for the estimate but connected to the coincident factor that is shown the following. Alright, the individual load coincident factor for the applied with the given numbers of the consumers equals the coincident factor given in table 8 with the hundreds plus the coincident factor given in table 8 with the hundreds was minus by 1 times 1 to the 1 ohm divided by the number of the individual loads in the group. Individual load. The coincident factor for the table 8 for the base for the individual load of the group being substantial for the same side if the single load, the small group of the load that are represented the substantial for the percent for the overload with the coincident factor given in table 8 will no longer apply with the individual loads. Increase the coincident factor to that with the common straight with the effect of the overall area load. This is not an additional but in play for the normal coincident factor to determine the value of the consideration intergroup of the coincident factors given in the paragraph. 2326. Example, the facility Navy code 211 and 70 with the presenting of the table 7 the small group determine the coincident peak load to apply with the appropriate intergroup of the coincident factor to obtain with the coincident peak of the load of the area. 2326. The group of the load areas with the group of the load within the area within the facility with the combined additional intergroup of the coincidence of the factor will exhibit the loads of similar nature intergroup of the coincident factor that should be between 93 to 93 hundredths of the 1 or 1. If the load of the area varying nature of even over the daylight and time loads are combined, the intergroup of the coincident factor should be between 7 and 10 hundredths of the 1 to 1. Lower values will occur with the magnitude of the load with nearly balanced if the higher ones with combined with the load with the predominantly one type. Alright, 233. Load growth. In addition, with the plan expansion for the increase of the application of electrical equipment, the generator with increase in the load when the sizing of the component with the transform of the feed of the area. Specifically consider possible load growth. In addition, with that include with the determination of individual loads. 234. System load with any distribution system load with the estimated area demand with the good approximation of 6% of the calculated maximum demand. Emergency load with the review all overall emergency requirements for the area based on the criteria for the furnished for the agency to determine the following: with emergency load with the may be combined with the group with the take with advantage of the coincident factor. B, the type of the distribution system need for the reliability for the economical safety satisfy the least for the less critical emergency load requirement. The reliability provided only if the source of the electrical power is not determined factor. Area of the load and C, areas of the load that must be added individual emergency load. For example, the security lighting and the minimum roadway lighting. 236. Expansion of the planned development of the area shown the activity general development map with the should be conservation requirements of the future expansion. 2.4. The activity loads. Activity loads are load with the consistent of the two or the more area load that serve the signal electrical power source for the integrated distribution system. 241 general load. The approach for the U of the paragraph 2, 3 with the area load of the area loads U of the determining activity coincident with the demand should be the area of the demand of exclusively allowance of load growth. 242 coincident back to the refer to paragraph 232 for the necessary approach for the dissimilar area with whether the residential, administrative, industrial as part of the activity may carefully analyze for the coincident factor used. 243 load as the area of the components for the LB side after the due to the conservation have given the load growth applied with the increase due to the coincident demand of the activity. 243 load growth of the area of the components for the LB sides after due to the conservation given the load growth applied with the increase of the coincident demand of the activity. 244 expansion of the planned development of the activity shown by the general development map should be considered with the requirements of a future expansion. Alright, section 3, the electrical power source.